I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Mr. Hankins, you lead us in pledge, please.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was supposed to determine this had a forum, but it looks like we're pretty full. Everyone's here, which is good. First item is the introduction of visitors, Rob.
Okay. Mr. Igo. And Dan McGee, Nicole Kukowski, and Casey Elliott. Moves.
Emma, you can sit up here if you want to. You can sit this way. Generally, they make the representatives sit up here, whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter. Wherever you want to do it. Okay, the next thing we have is the review and approval of the minutes that were mailed out to you or emailed, I guess.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Cover the claims and accounts. Josh, if you want to go through those.
Here, we call your attention to page one. I don't have, as made tonight, but let's go down to page one. Look at the bottom of the page, you get 20401. That's the BMO MasterCard. So you can see the total this month was $23,528.59. If you drop a little further down to item 6, you can see that $7,989.86 of that amount was for bus parts and supplies. If you continue on to page 2, another big portion of that, where I go here tonight, is number 18. That was FFA student lodging for $4,473. Now, again, we have funding for that. That's not an additional expense of any kind. It was just, that was another large chunk of that MasterCard expense. Any questions on those so far? The MasterCard is probably always our biggest one. We'll stay on page 2. And if you look at 20402, got Brown and Thompson Oil for $13,889.86. That's for bus fuel. You can see our expenses there. That's all I have on page 2. Any more questions on page 2? Just to read, I don't really have anything specific to call to mind. If you have any questions over anything that's on page 3, I can answer that for you. Page 3, they removed page 4. Same thing here. Nothing really noteworthy called to your attention. But if you have a question about any of the expenses or claims, I can answer that for you. Page 4. Okay, and we'll move page 5. Page 5, I'll call your attention to item number 20423. Northwest Energy bill. You can see our bills ticking up a little bit as the weather grows a little bit colder. We were at $6,837.42. A little bit of gas used, but mostly electric there. And I have nothing else on page 5 to call to your attention. Any questions on page 5? Page 6. Last page, nothing specific except for the total expense for the month. We had 46 claims, a total of 44 vendors, and the grand total was $75,719.30.
The Wells Fargo deal is that's just the leases on our copiers, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And if you look on the very last page there, it shows the breakdown, so like 85% came from the general fund transportation, so 30,000 from general fund, 30,000 in change from transportation, and you can see the rest, everything else broken up. Questions on the claims?
Would move to approve the claims and payments that were submitted.
Second.
You move and second to approve the claims and accounts. Are there any questions or discussion about them? If not, in favor, say aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. I think before we jump into public comment, I'm going to go ahead and move 10.1, which was building, mind, and body with Dan McGee to talk about our architects and request for qualifications on the repairs on the BW or on the BOAG building. Dane,
Thanks, guys.
bring a chair up if you want.
Oh, no, that's all right. I'll stand up. Been sitting all day. So, if you remember last time I was down, we were, reviewing the 45's proposal. And, didn't feel that was where we needed to be. So over the last couple of weeks, since I saw you last, I've been, kind of pounding the pavement, talking to architects, general contractors, just to find interest. Architects have been a little bit slow to respond, just worried a little bit about the scope, when we're sharing the Charles Taylor and Associates report, it's a pretty broad spectrum of all the things that we had issues throughout the project on. So it's hard for them to nail down kind of what their costs might be, depending on what scopes we pick. 45 looked at it kind of as a whole. They have a lot better understanding, I think, of what the project entailed. So throughout that, the 4 different large general contractors I talked to, like, hey, we'd love to participate, but man, have you thought about going design build? So it started triggering some things in my brain about maybe another path to where we could drive down the design costs. So I initially sent, as part of my board package to Josh, was maybe this is another approach to bringing that group in as a team. They can manage the architect under them, minimize maybe the detailing and the efforts that they would have to do. Sent that out Thursday, late Friday. An architect finally responded, and the numbers more in line with what I was anticipating. After several conversations about truly what scopes are our biggest concerns. And I wanted to share that with you first, because that was originally the path that I was on. So now we have kind of 2 to compare. And so pulled up this was in an email form. It was basically, this is what I feel it's going to take. They reviewed the report, said, I understand, the, co-kick base that we show has got some errors in installation. In the report, it called to cut 12 inches of sheetrock, repair all that. And that's just a really heavy detailed scope that we don't need design on, but those are all things that those architects that we're having some concerns with. So after several conversations, this is Intuitive Architecture. They're familiar with the area. They're the ones that designed and we worked through on the Bulldog Stadium. Very competent group. One thing is they're a smaller firm, so they're a little more nimble. They've got 3 individuals versus 45, where they have 30 in their office in Bozeman. It's a much bigger machine to manage. So the end of the day, I asked them to remove or at least get costs from consultants if we need them. And that's structural and mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. As we know, that building's performance, I think, is it's related to that building envelope that we're having issues with. I think if we can address that, we can use a commissioning kind of agent to help identify any problems and then bring on an engineer for a solution if it's required. So I asked her to go out and not only talk to the individuals that were originally part of the project, but then also to some folks that might be a little more aggressive and really solution-based, not overall, critiquing another engineer's design, but what's the solution? So end of the day, her initial for the architectural piece is between 34 and 39,000. And that really depends on which items we want her to focus on. And so that's more in line, even with coming in. So they talked to Morrison Merrily and DCI, who were the original engineers. Their numbers were in the 40,000 and 25,000 range that they were originally, because they're aware of the project. Still have some, they had some hesitancy to respond to even any 45, but said, hey, this is what we could help you with. They went out to some other, folks locally to her offices in Missoula, and said, hey, if I really need you to skinny it down, you can see if we need them between 12 and 15 on the mechanical, engineering or electrical and plumbing, and then $3,000 to $5,000 in structural. Really, that structural engineer is looking at whatever we're going to hang on that building. And there's not, again, my opinion, there's not $25,000 worth of work that needs to be done there. It's really identifying how we're going to hang whatever it is and how does it interact with that masonry building. So worst case scenario, between 48 and 60, if these components are required. So I just wanted to bring that to you guys to say, this was kind of our original path that we were looking. I think we can keep sub 50 or lower. And I believe that, in my conversations with Marie Wilson is the principal architect of Intuitive, feels that this is going to be able to encompass everything that we would need. So I just wanted to visit with you guys, see if it's something that we want to stay that path. So what that means is that they would send us an official proposal. We'd get them under contract, but they would start doing, with a verbal, they would start doing their due diligence on modeling and understanding the building, probably take a site trip, and really understand what our concerns are. And then we would start the process of going out, as I originally said, which is to go kind of a hybrid GCCM, which is general contractor, construction manager, where we would get them on as fast as we possibly could, so that then they could start vetting out the detailing and putting budgets together early, and then we can make changes as we go. So that's the original path that I had recommended. That's how this project was originally delivered. It's good. It's tried and true. It's through the Montana State Code. It's called an alternative delivery method, meaning it accelerates, your schedule. There's a cost benefit or there's some technical advantage to doing it that way. The other option that I was going to present tonight, since I was struggling, was design build, which is the same alternative delivery approach that would let us put qualification requests out to general contractor and architect partners. So in the write-up I sent to you guys has the pros and cons of both of those. I've used design build, have great success with it. I've used GCCM, great success. Either way, we're in a similar time frame from today. The architect would be working on their own to develop their concepts of what the solution would be. In this method, if we went ahead and said, hey, let's go ahead and negotiate with this company, we would still request from them as fast as possible a design scope, so that then I can get that in front of general contractors and look for that mid-December selection of a partner from the contracting side. All the large general contractors are comfortable with both either or method and are very comfortable with either or architects that we've talked to. What it would change is then now a contractor would have to go out and find the right architect, so that they don't come in and we really like the general contractor, but the architect doesn't maybe float our boat as much. So there's some pros and cons. That's one of them. You're not really able to pick and choose those because they come in as a team, and you can't go, well, we want this contractor and that architect, because that's not how that method works. So I just wanted to see if you guys had questions or concerns. Is this a a path. And that's why I felt it was important to come down. This would have been a little bit more difficult over Zoom, but just want to be able to have you guys ask questions, concerns. They in their official proposal, they'll provide all their qualification, their schoolwork and all those things. So I know they're qualified. I've worked with them on several school projects. So those are the folks that I actually called, were ones that I've done work with. And she was the only one that felt confident enough in the conversations to actually respond, even though it was a little later than I was hoping. But you guys, questions? No, that's a lot.
What do you feel is the best way to go for our particular project, Dan?
My gut is to say, stay the course and go get an architect on now. And then go out and get a general, because then we can be really specific on the general contracting and get the right person. And I think obviously the cost side of it is more in line with where I had kind of estimated, I said 50 or below. And I think we land there. And then controlling that engineering side is where we'll be able to keep that sub 50 number versus 84 plus 40 and 25. In the design build, that's up to the general contractor about what their fees are going to give them, because at the end of the day, they'll give us a guaranteed maximum price for whatever is designed. And so this way, I think we can get the right contractor versus, having to kind of weigh through, well, I really like this contractor, but man, the architect, I'm not sure about. It's a little harder to kind of pick and choose. Now, Swank, that was the team that did BW Lodge. They worked with Marie Liker. I just talked to their project manager today and I was asking how it was going. That's Shane Austin, who helped us do the estimating for the repairs initially. He's like, we'll work with whoever calls. So they're okay, but they have to come in with one team. So they're going to do the same thing and say, hey, what do you think it's going to cost? And then they're going to pick a partner based on how low they think they can keep the fees to put more money into construction. Another part of that is that when they're under a general contractor, we're paying their markups. So there's a little bit more, there's ways that contractors make their money, and that is by marking up those subs that they have under them. So we can separate that potentially by staying the course, if that's something that this group feels is important. And I see, Cole, you're nodding quite a bit. I'm sure you've probably seen both, and maybe you could.
Yeah, with the design, I like the design build process if you have the right team. If you know your architects, the contractor, it can work really smoothly. I do think probably in this situation, just at GCCN, we get that contractor involved just early.
Yeah.
It's just not let architects.
They can get a little free with their design without having that check.
Having the contractor involved, in my opinion, just keeps everybody really architect grounded.
Yeah,
I guess, and a lot of times they just know an efficient way. A good general can look at something. So we just do this, and architects always want to make it fancy and proper.
Right.
Sometimes a good general can fix stuff without.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a bit of roof work, hoping where we've got a system that's kind of a wonky design. It was approved via the request for information, and they changed the way the parapet cap was done. They have the membrane roof wrapped up, and they just have a false drip edge on it, which is a potential fail point. And I think we had some of that early on. Those are things, there's not a lot of detailing that needs to go into that. That's pretty quick to fix. An architect could spend 3 hours designing something that we're paying $150 an hour for, when a contractor goes, nope, I'll get the lengths ordered I need. We'll form it on site. We'll get it done.
So a lot of times just letting people that fix things
Right.
without
Overthinking it.
Yeah.
Roxanne, without putting you on the spot too much, was Western pleased with Intuitive and Marie?
Yeah, Marie was excellent on her attention to detail and just, she did a lot of the expense tracking for us in our scenario. And I thought was very diligent and just being mindful of the fact that we had very limited budget too. We didn't have a lot of excess and a lot of fluff, which is
Mhm.
similar to this project. And she was just very mindful of that and was a good partner for us, really good partner for us. I would absolutely work with Marie again on any project. I thought she was excellent.
That makes sense to me, like Cole said, and Dan too. I think you kind of have a better check and balance if we go along the way that we were initially talking about. And anybody else have any thoughts about it?
Anything so far?
Sure.
Feel pretty comfortable with, I like the numbers.
Yeah.
Gives us some room. And on this, I think David Barry presented us lots of options.
Yep.
And lots of different architectural companies and you see various feedback. They will have to work with somebody that wants to work with you. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
The numbers match up.
Right.
And we're in a position where, speed is what we're looking for. So, as long as we're proceeding in a measured way, we want to get things done pretty quickly. It's a pretty good option.
So Dan, if we go ahead and approve her tonight, then what would be the kind of lead us through then what the process would be in the time frame that you're thinking about? Then?
Yeah. Get notice tomorrow that we're gonna pursue, working with her. She would draft an official proposal with terms and conditions. That'll get signed. They'll start immediately working on collecting all the data. They already have drawings and they have all of our reports, but it will be a trip and a day down here to really understand what's going on. It'd be nice to get facilities. Maybe Caleb can, we can bother his classroom again, because that's where a lot of the problem started that identified this. And I would ask her to develop some really quick written scopes that, along with the drawings, we can advertise and go out for that qualifications piece for the general contractor. And that's a 14-day notice. Schools can accelerate it. State projects is 3 weeks. We can do it in 14. So we advertise that, get qualifications in. I would ask that building committee we would sit, review those, invite the top 3, top 4, whatever that number we decide, to invite them to go then into the proposal phase. And that's where we give them about, 2.5. We try to squeeze them because there's not a lot of data for them to really climb through but really what we're looking for is who's the team they're proposing. So a lot of these, all of the big guys. So Langless, Jackson, Dick Anderson, Plank, they've all been calling me, hey, what's going on? What do you got in the horizon? There's some slowdown in the commercial sector right now. So they're all looking for work, which is a good sign for us. Bid day, that helps. Bless you. And so we would want to try to, if we can go now, I'm thinking that, week before Christmas is when we would probably interview. We'll put if we get packages and we like their, what they're going to put in there for fees, that's the other thing we want to say is, hey, do you have the availability? What are your fees? That helps us kind of determine what they want to make on it. The board has the authority to be able to select based on qualifications and proposals without interviews, or we say we're in shortlist, do a day of interviews, and then that would come to the board as a recommendation on who to get on board. But that will give the architect 2.5, 3 weeks to get some scopes developed. And then we'll ask them to put their packages together for a pricing effort, just to show us how they think about a project. And all these folks, yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned last time we spoke, maybe in these, a few meetings with the facility committee, as opposed to maybe full board meetings.
Yep.
Will that play into any of these scenarios?
Yeah, just to help make efficiencies at the regular board meeting, it would be nice to have those discussions with a small group, really, that's going to stay kind of engaged throughout the process to let them digest all of the things and make then as a group to make a full recommendation to the board. That I think would allow this, you don't have to sit and listen to me talk too much. You know, saves me, you know, those are items we can do via Zoom. Like I said, Marie's office is right in Missoula. We can do a lot of that stuff to save the trips, which will help, again, keep dollars as low as possible so we can drive more into the solution. So the goal, you know, my goal would be to try to have somebody to where they know they're full tilt the first of the year. So they'll actually be able to start working with Marie or her team and really, here's the items that we need detailed. Hey, we might need a structural engineer for this, we might not. A lot of those systems that we've talked about are all engineered. It can be a really quick review on how it attaches to the building and system that we've got. DCI, who's the original engineer, confirmed that, hey, you can hang pretty much anything you want off the edge of that, because there's, you know, there's 10-inch solid grounded blocks, full foundation. I mean, so they're not too concerned about what we're putting on it, because it's not going to be that heavy. But it'll have that insulation piece to it, all the things that will seal that building up and give us our efficiency. So goal would be to have somebody under contract, or at least in the process of the pre-construction. What we'll do, so in a general contracting, we'll hire them as a pre-construction services agreement, where it's going to be a really small portion of their upfront fees to get us to where we have a bid set of documents, and then they'll go out, hard bid it, and then we would go into a full guaranteed maximum price contract, or a GMP. And only at that time would we approve the full spend of whatever those dollars are, specific to the scopes that we've approved them to build.
You had mentioned that if we hired Marie, she would come down for a day. Would you come also to?
I would ride with, and we would schedule it to where she can meet the facilities team, you know, make it as convenient as possible, but I'll want to get her down here as quickly as we can, just to get them started.
Okay.
And they may come in and scan the building again to get their own models going. But with all the drawings, we got kind of a pretty good head start.
Anybody else have any questions for Dan? If we're okay with Marie, we could entertain a motion to hire them if someone would feel comfortable doing so.
Second.
Then moved and seconded to hire Intuitive Architect to be the architects for the repairs of our building. Is there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This is unanimous. And anything else you need to?
Well, I'll let everybody know that I talked to, what the solution was. We'll get going.
You'll also notify Annie. I guess.
That's always.
Tell them we appreciate them submitting a bid, and we had to go a different route, and wish them the best.
I'll share that. I'll call them and then I'll just.
Anybody have anything more for Dan? Be careful, dodge the deer. Watch the elk at Jen's. You bet. Thanks, Dan. See ya. All righty. Now we're to public comment. Caleb, you're up, man.
So you saw that I spent a lot of money and actually. So let's see what that got us. And I don't have very many of these, so I'll pass it around. Took 12 kids with us to National Faith Convention week before last. Had one kid in the national band, Rowdy Madison. He was the only one in Montana that made band, so it was pretty unique. He made third chair out of 25 clarinets in the national band orchestra. So he had a really neat, really different, unique experience at convention. We didn't really see him all week. And he was on stage in Lucas Oil and got to play for like 70,000 of us. So it was pretty neat. I took 2 national teams there. And so only the state winner from each team gets to compete, or it's only state winner in each conference gets to compete. And so they would break it up kind of by thirds. And so that vet science team was 11th in the nation. So they were gold in the top third. Missed top 10 by like less than 100 points, but seems to here nor there. And that horse team, very young kids, 2 sophomores, they were 18th in the nation. So pretty unique experience. Pretty, I think, compares really favorably with some of those bigger schools. It's interesting to see that most of the big schools that are going and you know, making the stage at National FFA Convention with these huge like multi-teacher departments, and so it's just me and these guys doing really well. We also got to send some kids across stage on Thursday to receive our 3-star national chapter application, which puts us probably in the top 3 to 5% of all chapters nationwide. And this is the 8th year that we've received that award. And then lastly, we had 4 students receive their American FFA degrees, which is kind of like the highest thing that they can achieve. Out of 1 million FFA members this year, about 5,200 of them receive their American degrees. So it's kind of like Eagle Scout, I guess, if you were to compare the percentages. So pretty neat deal, really successful. I got to go on some really cool tours with the National FFA Center. They just renovated the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and a really neat presentation there. Indianapolis Zoo does a really cool like ag centered behind the scenes tour for us. They have a really good zoo, surprisingly. And so I think they got a lot out of it, and we had a good trip, and everybody's happy. So thanks for letting us go, and thanks for letting us spend a little bit of money to go.
And you were awarded the Star Chapter Award again?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Super.
pretty exciting stuff.
Well, to have those 2 awards in veterinary and horse is tremendous. Also, have you ever been able to do that before?
Not 2 at a time. I took a vet team 4 years ago, and they were bronze. So we've learned a lot about how to be competitive at that national contest and what it takes too. And my wife coaches that team. Like fair disclosure, like I'm not smart enough to do the vet science thing. I open the doors, and it kind of helps. It does all the work on that. And then Morgan Kuntz, who Garrison now trains that horse team, does a tremendous job on those guys too. So
Does Morgan live here now?
yeah, she's back. She's running the place there. Her mom's
Oh, is she? Okay.
not great. So her they run the ranch
Oh, good.
and train the horse team.
That's wonderful.
So
Well, congratulations to you and your students, and thank you for sharing everything with us, and keep up the good work.
appreciate it.
Any other public comment? Communication from anyone? Okay, if not, we'll go on to superintendent's report, Josh.
Okay, not too much this time. Fall State reporting as we finally got all that finished. Bit of a struggle in we trying to transfer everything over from Power School to Infinite Campus, because everything's reported in Infinite Campus. And so that was a bit of a learning curve. And so hopefully we'll have some training coming up to the Infinite Campus, and still projected to make the consideration to switch. That'll save, I think, a ton of time in the reporting process. But that's all complete for the fall. Now we'll have some winter reports coming up probably in January, and then spring reports after that. This is we're always reporting now. All evaluations are completed except for one. I had one teacher out on bereavement leave, and so I'm going to reschedule with her. I'm trying to catch up now with the reports. I actually got 3 of them cranked out today, so I'm hoping before Thanksgiving break to get finished with those. I have about 5 left to do. And then the Montana Conference for Education and Leadership. Some interesting things that I brought back from that. And so I'll call your attention to a couple of these bullet points. The call for school elections, this is going to affect every member of this board, has been shifted up 3 months. The new date will be Thursday, December 11th. So that's any school related election. It could be a levy election, a trustee position. So that's something to pay attention to. That's a big change that honestly didn't catch until this meeting. And I've been to several meetings talking about legislative changes, and I missed that. So that's probably the most important one.
So like of the board election as the trustees,
just a call.
there's a call for
you have to call for the election in December 11th. And so all the time, every timeline has been shifted up because of that. So it's just something that as I'm getting new dates, they give you numbers, like you have to be within a certain number of days. And so once we get all the math figured out, OPI does give us some actual dates, and I'll share those with the board. Who we have anybody who's up this year?
Dylan,
I think so, yeah, we have
So it'll be here before you
people
know it.
every year, so.
Yeah, in that rotation.
Yeah.
So it'll be here before you know it, so it's be something to be mindful of. That, and I get more information to make sure Roxanne and Bill get in and get paperwork filled out.
Every year.
Is it still in March that they have to send the applications in by, or will they have to put in by this month?
I think it's by December, but I could be wrong. I need to double check on it. Suzanne, what was your understanding of
I
that?
think it's still, it may not be March, but I think it's still December to,
Okay, so the call for it is December 11th. But I think the paperwork found it shipped up to, they were shifting a lot. They're trying to make school elections fall more in line with statewide elections. What I think they're, at least that's what I was told. They're trying to shift everything to get closer to statewide elections. Other things, so we have a tuition fund now. We have several students that are out of district. We get around 10 or so from Twin Bridges, and I think maybe one from Lima. So anytime we do that, we permissively levy through our tuition fund. When we lose students, we permissively levy to cover the cost of tuition. And what they were saying is that if at any point in time that you begin to generate more revenue in your tuition fund than the actual over base amount, that's not just new money you can keep. Some of the people were thinking, I was like, oh, really? I was making notes about that. And somebody from OPI didn't know, made a call and like, no, that's not how it works. It goes back to your other permissive levies to lower those mill values. So that's kind of how that works. Anyway, that was just an interesting little tidbit. May or may not affect us. It really depends on, losing students, gaining students, and the tuition levy. Beginning next school year, funding for all school districts in the county, we pulled at the county rather than the state. So in the past, I guess my understanding is the money was pulled at the state level and was sent directly to the county, kind of tagged for Beaver County High School District. I think it's very confusing to me. It sounds like we're going to send everybody in the county's money. That's Polaris, that's District 10 to the county. And I guess Mike and the treasurer, they're going to figure out how to divvy it up. It makes me a little bit nervous, but that's something the state's kind of pushing off to the county level now. It makes me a little nervous to see how that goes.
Yeah.
So Suzanne and I will paying close attention to how much we get and make sure they don't short us any.
Right.
Also next year, our guaranteed tax base funding will be calculated at the county level as opposed to state level. We don't get a ton for guaranteed tax base, I don't believe, but it's something that, again, want to make sure we get accurately funded. Those FPT forms, those are the ones, Gary, that you signed for out-of-district students. There's a chance that those might go away. They're not sure yet, but we may not have to keep track of all those anymore. They recommended, and I'll share with Suzanne, that all permissive levies intended for next fiscal year to use the current fiscal year figures. So use this year's figures when we're going to discuss new permissive levies for next year. And so our current permissive levies, just so everybody knows, tuition fund, that's a permissive levy. Building reserve is the other permissive levy that we use. Is there any more that I'm missing? Transportation, that's the biggest one. But we just lowered some mill values there. So I think those are tuition, building reserve, transportation are our biggest permissive levies. And that's a levy that you levy on your constituents without a vote. So it gives us some revenue generating authority, but someone also have to be mindful of not increasing the tax burden too much on our own constituents. Or if we ever needed a bond or a voted levy, we'd have probably no chance to pass it. And that's why Suzanne and I work together to kind of try to lower that transportation mill value a little bit is present. But hopefully show that we're being mindful of the taxpayers' money that they send us. Also, the STARS Act, average teacher salary, just so everybody knows, that pertains to our own district, not statewide. It's not the average teacher salary statewide that we're trying to fall into compliance with. It's our own average teacher salary in the district. And I believe we're doing pretty good with that right now, but there's still some numbers that, Suzanne and I have to kind of look at, pay attention to as we get new employees. Because you're really trying to bring that beginning teacher wage up. In line, it's close, but bring it closer to the average salary in your district. Lastly, there's human trafficking training for bus drivers. And I initially thought that was required, but it turns out just this week got an email that it's not necessarily required. The only requirement is that OPI provide free resources so that if districts choose to provide that training, that they can. I'm certainly not opposed to it. It's just something in a pinch in a year that we're already really busy. I'm not sure when I'm going to go provide the time to get that done. But it's something that now that we do have some free resources, we'll probably maybe look at doing this summer or before school starts next year with our bus drive. Any questions on MCL related stuff? Okay, staff vacancies, we've still got one custodian position. Knock on wood, we've got maybe somebody interested. Last time I said that, they found another job. Hoping this time maybe we get lucky. Local board training, so Jack Bazemore, our Beaver Head County Agriculture, 4-H, MSU Extension agent, kind of does a little bit of everything. Asked to share opportunity to participate in local board training. Now, Dan Clark of MSU's Local Government Center will be conducting the training. The topics will include open meeting laws, running effective meetings, being an effective board member, and a whole lot more. It will be held December 16th, 6 to 9 p.m. in the Beaver Head County 4-H building. And I've got a flyer attached here with a QR code, so you can, well, not a QR code, maybe just a flyer. And so kind of as a reminder, if that's something that you might be interested in. I think lastly is the superintendent evaluation tool. I finally remembered that to add that to it. I just went with Megan's from last year. There's a couple others I've been looking into, but they cost money, and I feel like spending more money right now. Let's get through a couple of these projects before we spend any money on an evaluation tool. So it's fairly basic, and I think relatively straightforward. If you have any questions about it, just let me know, and I can explain there. Did put like a date on there, kind of based off what Megan's had said. And I just kind of threw out December 8th, which is our next board meeting, the Monday. Does that sound like a reasonable time here to have those?
I don't think we need them that soon because we'll do the evaluation in the January meeting. Is that right?
Okay. Yes.
I think if people had them to me by just before Christmas, if you could, the 15th or 20th, something like that would be fine. And it's what we've done in the past, Josh, is everybody compiles their own, and then I take the consultations and do just a conglomeration. I guess a conglomeration. A lot of the things say the same things. Then we just have the one evaluation report that we go over with you, and that's what we sign and you sign. And if everybody's okay with that, if you could just get those to me. And
makes sense to me.
Suzanne, you might, I don't know if everybody wants to do them online or do them hard copy. It doesn't matter to me. Hard copy works better for me, but you might want to get them some envelopes they can bring back in maybe. If you guys wanted to. I think that's what we've done in the past.
We have it in a Word format, so we can just type up our comments versus handwrite them, or would you rather?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Word format's fine.
Do we have it that way? Or
I don't think we do we?
Okay,
Right.
that's okay. I can just answer the questions.
It's either
Is
PDF.
that bad?
We can check and see, because I just copied Megan's and just blank everything in.
Whatever you have, I'll have to do it by hands.
Lastly, I've got the superintendent report. A couple things I want to call your attention to. I'll be out of the office tomorrow. I've got a doctor's appointment over in Missoula. So I'll be over there pretty much the whole day. And then according to plan, the shutdown concludes and open up the air traffic airways On the 24th and 25th, I plan to take off because my senior daughter will be visiting for Thanksgiving. And I'm hoping to take her to some college visits. So we'll be visiting Western, UM, and MSU, maybe Carroll. So this is my last shot to try to pitch her at coming up here for college.
Where is she gonna come?
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like she's decided she wants to graduate from hometown and that's the way she's leaning. So I'm like, well, if I don't pitch some college, I may just never get to see her hardly much. That's what I plan on doing that Monday and Tuesday if everything works out.
Just put them on in school.
Fingers crossed.
There you go. Any questions of Josh on his superintendent's report? Okay. Go to the assistant principal's report. Rob?
I just had one total on attendance, like I normally do. It's been very consistent, right around that 93, 92 range. And hopefully it remains right around that 93%. It's nice. Things like that. We are working on trying to get kids here more. Actually set some policies up in place. And some consequences that are concrete. They weren't like concrete before, but they are now. We've actually set things home to parents just to let them know. Next page with the nice colorful graph. Once again, we are already heavy. And we did meet with the teachers last week during our day off. We kind of try to come up with a game plan on how to improve that. And so we put a few things in place and hopefully that will discipline problems are tardies. So with that, I ran some numbers, I counted all of them. There was 641 tardies last quarter. Yeah, so basically it's an average of two per student throughout the quarter. However, if you actually minus about 13 students, you minus about 200 parties. So I am focusing on that 13.
Are they mainly morning or afternoon, or are they about the same?
I would say that the biggest ones are first community. 13 of them have been tardy 200 times. But yes. And a lot of those students I've talked to, and a lot of those students just have a hard time carrying. So that's what it is. So I'm actually going to recruit some teachers and try to get somebody that they can relate to and try to get them to school, some kind of relationship with them. And some having some have those relationships, and some, just like I said, it's just hard to break through that shell. But that's the goal. Or you tell them more sometimes. They only can spend so many days.
We discussed in the meeting, obviously there's administration trying to crack down on consequences, and it progresses. It goes from detentions to in-school suspension, Saturday school, in-school suspension. We've got several that are in the in-school suspension portion now. The feedback from students that have been in school suspension, how's it been, Rob?
They don't care for it one bit.
That's the thing they like the least. And so, just some time like that, and looking to, as long as we plan ahead of time for a day, we're gonna have this suspension. We're gonna look at getting a sub, so free up Rob and free up Rock. So they don't have to cover that as much, and just get through it. We have noticed they get a lot of work done too. There was one student failing 4 classes, and after a few in-school suspensions, wound up passing 2 of the 4. So there's some progress there. As long as you sit down and you focus, that's all you do all day. It's amazing what you can accomplish. But just in addition to just consequences, I think you also have to have some kind of balance. So we talked about also maybe looking at it's something I asked student council to look at too. Maybe doing, so we're a pretty competitive school here, doing a grade level based reward. So the grade with maybe the least amount of tardies in a quarter gets some kind of reward. So you get, freshmen versus seniors or juniors, sophomores, and see which one can keep that lower. From what my experience, peer pressure tends to be the most convincing grade. So if we can get the peers to convince that it's important in class, then maybe they'll take it a little more seriously. But then also maybe have some kind of additional award, maybe not as impressive as what we do for a grade level, something for the whole school. But maybe something small, but just say, hey, we appreciate you guys working on it. Because if we get everybody to bring the targets down, that's an accomplishment. Those are some of the other things that Rob and the NBI can work.
Is there any discrepancy between whether it be freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors, or are they all about equal?
Average number of parties actually freshmen are winning. They have 1.5, sophomore is about 2.0, juniors 2.1, and then seniors about 1.5. Average is now.
So no big discrepancy, really.
Really.
Okay.
Wrong, there's some kids that haven't been tardy or missed a day of school. Some of the other ones are happy.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Rob? If not, we'll go on to Rock's report.
On time.
So just kind of report on our fall activities. The cross country state meet was held in Missoula on Saturday, October 25th. We had a pretty good showing there. You guys can see the results. We had some PRs at the state meet, so just had a really good season with their cross country team, and proud of their efforts and work that they put in. Volleyball team finished 3rd in league play, received an automatic bid to the divisional tournament. The divisional tournament was this past weekend in Libby. We placed 4th and advanced to the state tournament. We opened state tournament play against Billings Central starting Wednesday at 12 p.m.
Imagine that, we never played in Central anything, man.
If anybody is interested in going to the state tournament, send me an email and we'll get tickets for it. So, the brackets, it's pretty small, but find it online, but I put that on the back as well. Speech and drama, their practice began and they're attending their first meet this Saturday in Stephenville. Football team finished the season 2-6. Winter sports are set to start Thursday, November 20th. We'll have our parent student meeting and coaches meeting next Monday. Wow. We got pretty excited to host the East-West kind of crossover in basketball. Can't think of the date right off the top of my head, but mid-December, right before we go to break.
18th December.
Yeah, and then we'll be hosting the Western A Divisional Wrestling Tournament, so we'll have 13 boys and girls wrestling teams here as well. So
When is that one? Do you know?
February,
First day.
That's great.
February 13th, 14th.
But the basketball deal is here. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Maybe some.
So we'll have-
games.
you know, 6 teams in town, including us.
Who else coming to that?
For the west, it's us, Frenchtown, Bigport. The east is Billings Central, Lockwood, and Hat.
Big games.
I don't know.
Good competition.
It's been a while since we've had a big tournament in town, so I'm really looking forward to it. The chamber and, you know, the motels and everyone's been very accommodating and gearing up for folks to come. We're on this cycle, looking at it. Our next kind of divisional host is like 2036, so take advantage of it. You know, get the tip off volleyball, I believe, next year. That'll be, then we're out. We'll get these east-west, we'll rotate around, so we'll get those. It's every other year, hopefully, or every third year. Looking forward to that. It'll be exciting. Excited to have you come down. That's all I have, Mr. Love.
Okay, thank you, bro. Anybody have any questions for Brock? Okay, next. An agenda item. Josh?
9.1. Not sure if you've ever heard this gentleman before, but I would like the board to consider possible action to hire Rick Nordahl as assistant wrestling coach. This recommendations coming from Brock, because we do have a large number of girls this year and a fair number of boys as well. And so we feel like we're having a third coach would be advantageous, especially since they're starting to break these groups up and have girls compete at different venues than the boys. And that's where things can get challenging in terms of having supervision and a good coach there. Miss anything there, Brock, or is that about?
No, that's very accurate. You go to the big tournaments now, you know, just look at the Bozeman one's a big. The boys will be at Gallatin, the girls are gonna be wrestling Belgrade. Same, like in Great Falls. We're set a point. A good point in girl wrestling, boys wrestling, if we need to fill those spots. So, Kind of, I'm right, we gotta.
I would move to hire Rick McCrum as the assistant coach.
Then moved and seconded. Hire Rick Nordahl as the assistant wrestling coach. Is there any discussion? Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, passes unanimously. For those of you that don't know, I guess everybody pretty well does, but Rick was the head wrestling coach here for how many years, I suppose?
150.
Big old job, and his son Brett being the head wrestling coach and Rick being the assistant, and Tyler Barnes, we should be in really good shape. Especially with so many girls going out, it would be a neat program. Any idea yet, Brock, on how many boys and girls are going out for wrestling?
Yes, I believe the girls are about 12 to 13 and the boys around 15. So that's comparable to last year.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, but you know, I know last year the room was getting full. If we get any influx either way, we're gonna really have to look at maybe separate practice times, things like that, shooter space. Kind of where we're guessing.
Good. Your son going out?
Yep. Good. Said open mats have been Wednesday, Thursday. I guess was it last Thursday? A pretty good bunch of set. Open mats.
On leave too. Good. Good. Okay. Next item of business then is the action items. Josh, you want to go ahead? I guess we'd already passed on 10.1.
Yep, so since we have taken care of 10.1, we'll move to 10.2. This is a board consideration and possible action to approve the managed service partnership contract for technology-related services with K-12 Montana. So that'd be the packet that kind of looks like this. And there, the first part is kind of like a scope of what they would do. Now, I've also, asked our technology director, Paul Patkowski, is going to speak on this tonight, but you know, one of the first things that when I arrived here, and just kind of that our tech infrastructure is in need of update. It's not that we're behind per se, but we're at risk of falling behind if something is not done soon. Well, then the next question is how do we fund it? And so looking around in our funding, but we do have some REAP funding, and that's a little over $20,000 REAP funding, and that's typically earmarked for rural schools, and one of the main things you can use that funding for is technology related purposes. And so I thought that'd be a great way to use those funds this year is to earmark that funding for a project like this. This project includes a lot of things. It's got a pretty wide scope. It'd be a 7-month contract. And if I skip back, I could say the cost is the $2,812 a month over the course of the next 7 months for a total of $19,684. And I'll go ahead and let Paul speak about it because he can tell you he's been very involved in this and maybe touch on some of the problems that something like this might solve for us.
Yeah, obviously, I'm particularly excited about this, the prospect of this. As you know, the technology at Beaverhead County High School has never been run by anybody certified in technology. And I'm a teacher. And so as a consequence, they've all done the best they could, but things have been put here, put there, gathered in. And so it's on a par with imagine you need to shut off the power in your house and you open the switch panel and you just have to start flipping stuff until nothing's late. And so we're kind of up against that. Every time we add something new, there's a hiccup that's undefinable because we don't know what's going on. So what makes me most excited about this is they're going to start this out with a network audit, which means they're going to trace every cable, clean up the cabling, tell us where switches should be better, program switches, on and on and on, to bring us up to the current century that we're living in. That in itself, if we were just to call those guys and say, hey, would you do this for us? That'd be $3,600. So there's 1 month free, so to speak, on their contract. Another way to think of it is technology is starting to outgrow the staffing. And so it's not feasible for us to hire anybody in technology, but at $2,800 a month, we have a half-time employee with no pay tax. You think of it in those terms. Maybe 7 months is enough for them to get us cleaned up and educate us to the point where we can take the ball from here and run with it. Maybe we decide this is a good thing and we keep going with it. But I see the audit as a necessity, and an audit without follow-up is not worth much. So.
Well, some of the other things that they were going to do, obviously the audit, they may expose some things that we need to prioritize. With Paul's knowledge of the building, we kind of have a good idea, and they had one of the gentlemen from the company come down and walk through our facilities with Paul to kind of get a better idea so they can give us an accurate quote. But another thing we're going to look at doing is transitioning completely to Google and to become more of a Google-based school. And so that's going to take some time because currently we're operating Microsoft Outlook and programs. Doesn't mean we're going to completely lose all Microsoft products. We can keep Office Suite and things like that, but there are ways now you can integrate that into a Google-based system. And so there again, I've seen a lot of duplication in our district, kind of like with our school and having to use Infinite Campus. I'm trying to eliminate some of that duplicity and make things more efficient, and also to save more money in the long run. So that's one thing I think would really kind of bring us a little more in the future is migrating. Project would cover is moving toward serverless infrastructure, being completely cloud-based. So when you think about long-term funding or costs, eliminating those big servers and the cost of the servers, another way we can save money in the long term. So this is a little bit of investment up front, but I think it's well worth it, especially that we have some funding we can specifically utilize for it. That's kind of earmarked for, that's supposed to be like tagged federally for things like this. Won't take away from general fund, won't take away from flex or anything else. And again, I think it'll set us up, going forward. It is a federal program. Shouldn't be on the chopping block. It's been around for decades. And so there is at least the expectation of continued funding in the future. And speaking with Suzanne, I think we get around what, $18,000 to $20,000 per year for our refunding. So so there again, that's something we can look at in the future, whether we want to continue working with them in a contract like this, or, is this, I also think it's a revenue stream we can use to start a rotation of devices, because the life expectancy of any Chromebook now or similar devices is about 5 years. So if we can we've got an inventory of our devices, and I'm asking, Paul to kind of help me think about ways we can start, retiring some of those devices and then ordering new ones, and maybe so that no student won't have access to one if need be. That's my pitch for K-12 Montana, the 7-month managed technology partnership.
Sounds fantastic.
Yes.
And so move to approve the K-12 Montana.
Second.
And moved and seconded to approve the K-12 Montana agreement for 7 months. Is there any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Start working real almost immediately. Last, we have 10.3, and that is board consideration, possible action to approve the purchase and adoption of the Signs of Suicide, or SOS program, for suicide awareness instruction focused on our current and future freshman classes. Program costs $500, so we're not going to know on expense, but it's about having a program in place. And BCHS has used SOS in the past. More recently, we used another program. Part of it because we've had a lot of turnover in our department. And so Chrissy Rouse is more familiar with SOS, something they used up in Helena. And this page here just kind of gives you a general overview of the program. But they work with freshmen, they go over some videos and have discussions. They completed a brief depression screening and review. Everything completed anonymously. That kind of helps us identify students that may need some assistance or follow-up. And it also raises awareness for them. So what kind of emotions am I dealing with? These thoughts how to recognize it in others, see something, say something. And so this would be an opt-out program, just as most programs that like this are. But it's something we would like to begin. We would like to be a little more proactive and wait for something to happen. And we think this is at least a good first step in doing something like this with our.
It sounds great, and it's something that Chrissy would like to use, correct?
Correct.
I would move to approve the SOS program for suicide awareness instruction.
Second.
And moved and seconded to approve the SOS Signs of Suicide program. Is there any question or discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Couple things, Josh, I just happened to think of. When we did our agreement with the Y in the summer, doesn't their insurance didn't run out in December? Believe it or not. Someone check on that and make sure they run it from December to December again. The other thing I had, if you didn't know, Adele Rouse, Ramona's mom and Pierce's mom and Chrissy's grandmother passed away 10 days or so ago. So have your thoughts with them. I haven't seen anything about a service or anything yet.
Next Tuesday morning.
Oh, is it? We're at my friend. Okay. She was 102, just turned 102. Anyway, she was a great lady. Years ago, I used to go to the Big Hole and she always cooked the best apple pie in the world. Great place to be, I know that.
Across the street from us, Parkview Court.
That's right, yeah.
Shoot baskets in the house all the time.
Sure. Anybody else have anything else to bring before the board? Caleb, anything from the teachers or?
No, sir, Grandma.
Okay. Pretty formal. Anything from the student side?
Discuss the other things today at lunch. And we came up like with the idea for awarding people like we had mentioned, but yeah, we talked about it for like 20 minutes.
Casey, any questions or thoughts? No, you're pretty fit too. Okay, if nobody has anything, we'll entertain a motion for adjournment until December 8th. Moved and seconded. Those in favor say aye. Wow, we almost did it within an hour, guys. That's better. Thank you, everybody.